Hi, and welcome to Untethered with Jen Liss, the podcast that's here to help you free yourself from the crap that's holding you back so you can finally claim the life you're meant to live. I'm your host, Jen, and in this episode, we are going to talk about the power of shining your brightest light. Let's dive in. Hi, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, we are going to have a Thursday thread, a little Thursday thread. That idea came to me this morning when I was pouring my coffee. I was like, it's so interesting that the Thursday episodes, I thread something out of the Tuesday podcast episode. So mentally and maybe verbally, now I'm going to start calling them Thursday threads. Now, for a Thursday thread, you never have to have listened to Tuesday's podcast, but it's just like a little bonus, a little enhancement if you have. But in Tuesday's episode, we had Kristin Svets on the podcast, and her big mission is to help more women to shine. And so she coaches, she does breath work. We have lots of similarities in our businesses and in our mission and in our message. And I just adore her. She is such a great human. And what I think is cool about talking about this, having her on my podcast, like we do incredibly similar work. And yet I bring her on my podcast. I'm a coach. She's a coach. We are both seeking people always to work with us, right? That's what we do. We're looking for the right people for our programs. Well, we coach different people because different people are attracted to us for different reasons. This is a perfect example of there is enough pie for everyone. When you take a piece out of the pie, it's not that there's a piece gone, it just refills. So if you want to look at life that way, that like every time you take a piece of pie, it magically refills into a perfect pie again. And that's why like Kristin and I are so supportive of one another. And I invited her on the podcast. So I hope that that is a beautiful example for you of how we can release the idea of scarcity, release the idea of competition. I personally align with a lot of Buddhist ideas. And one of the ones that I align the most with is the idea that competition is not serving us. And I know that that is very opposed to the world that we live in. But I'm actually not, I'm not 100% sure that I'm not okay with it, period. But I often think that healthy competition is actually not really healthy at all. So that's just my personal beliefs. I'm a huge team player, all about collaboration. Don't believe in scarcity. I believe in abundance. And it is a different shift in perspective that has transformed my life. Thinking about it like that, the more that we are all giving to one another, the more the world will be more and more light, more and more abundance, the more each of us is willing to step up and shine. Because when you shine, it doesn't steal somebody else's shine. When you shine, like think about it. If you're like not lit, say you're a match, and it's like you just keep kind of like rubbing up against the little match lighter. What do you call that? And it's like kind of flashing, but you never like really let it rip so that it becomes a flame. Like you can't light another matchstick because you're not lit. You're just like efforting. And it's not lighting. But once you like really let her go and you just like rub that thing on there and it lights up and becomes a flame, how many other matchsticks can you light? 1, 2, 3, 10, 20, 50, 100, 50,000, 100,000. The flame never runs out until the matchstick runs out. We're going to take this metaphor only so far, but a flame does not stop because it lit another flame, right? But a flame can't light another flame if it's not willing to be a flame. Girl, you got to light. Dude, you got to light. We have to shine. We have to allow ourselves to step into our gifts and just like fully let her rip. We have to. We're meant to. If you don't, how does that feel? How does it feel? Not fully living your purpose. If you're not fully living your purpose, how does it feel? Now imagine if you were fully living your purpose, whatever that purpose is. Maybe it's inspiring people to live a healthy lifestyle. Maybe it's you wrote a book and now you're inspiring other writers to write their books. Maybe it's designing an adorable sweater that so many people love wearing and it just makes them smile every time they put it on. Maybe it's being a leader in a company and leading other people to step into their own highest and best to create a product or service that's like really serving the world. Like imagine yourself really doing that thing. Is that a different feeling than being a matchstick that's just like lazily grinding against the I really need to know what the name of that of the like grindy thing is on a matchbox. But do you see what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't feel good because it's not what's even meant for us. What's meant for you is that big, beautiful reason that you came to the world. And we all have our own unique reason. I bring up lots of entrepreneurship and growth and things like that because that's the people who are listening to this podcast. You know, some people are fully living their purpose in things that are not like trying to write a book. But if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably been called to some big thing that feels really scary, and allowing yourself to fully step into that, whatever that is, you're facing some fears. You're feeling tethered. I just got off this podcast episode is going to come out in a couple weeks, but it was so good. We had this really great conversation about tethers. So look forward to that one with Kelly Thompson. But we were talking about the cultural tethers. Those are some of the strongest, like if you've got various levels of tethers, like some of them are like a tiny piece of string. Other ones might be some yarn. You know, some might be made of like a shoelace and they're all like holding you, you know, in different ways. But cultural tethers are like a steel pipe. You're just like trying to like hack at them and, you know, they're just like, they're so strong. The cultural tethers are so strong. But the big reveal is that you get to let go. The big reveal is that we're the ones holding the ends of those tethers. Because yeah, they exist. Cultural norms exist. You know, real setbacks exist, doubts exist, fears exist. They exist. Yes, they're in your mind, they're in the world, they exist. But we get to choose whether we hold them or not. We get to set them down. We get to set them down because, and the biggest way to realize that we need to set them down is by really seeing what is the big thing and how is that going to make me feel? And how do I feel right now where I am? But we can't really understand the importance of letting go of what we're holding until we really allow ourselves to feel the goodness that's on the other side. Because if we're giving all of our mental weight, I mean, what you focus on grows. What you focus on is what comes to life. So if we're giving very little focus to this big, huge, dreamy McDream, that is where we are really, truly shining, where we are really, truly being called and meant to be, we're maybe giving that, 5 minutes a day, if that. And we're spending a lot of time focusing on the limitations, on the resistance. We're just spinning. We're swimming in that area. How can we expect ourselves to move forward on the teeter-totter of life? Like, of course, we're going to be weighed down on the other side. We've got to move some mental weight over to the other side so that the balance shifts. And that, my friends, is what meditation is good for, is what breath work is good for, is what going on hikes in nature is good for, is what dancing is good for. I have a dance break scheduled on my phone at 11 a.m. every day. I stop what I'm doing and I dance. And sometimes, yes, I forget to stop what I'm doing. And so then I do it later. But I've been making a habit of this. and getting more dance breaks into my day. And to hold myself accountable, I've started posting it this week on Instagram. And it's also a fun way to allow my goofy self to shine too. So I've had fun with that. But those are the things that can shift our energy out of that resistance. Like those are strategies. If you want to say the word strategy, here's your freaking strategy. Have some fun. Have some fun. Get into joy. Have a good freaking time. That's your strategy. It's your strategy. Just had a beautiful coaching call with somebody today. I hope you're listening to this episode. We talked about it. We're like, joy is the strategy. Joy is the strategy. That's the strategy. But it helps so much to have somebody reminding you of that because we forget. We get so caught in the resistance. We've been so used to being in that space for so long. I mean, it happens to me quite obviously. It happens to so many people. It's normal. It's normal. And it's also okay to ask for help. It's also okay to have a community of support. It's okay to have a coach. It's okay to have a friend who you can talk to your spouse about these things, to dream with other human beings. Like that's okay. There are so many of us who feel like it's like, oh, I can't tell other people what's happening. But the more we do, the freer we are from it. The freer we are. And the freer you are, the more you start to shine. Because you can't shine when you're just like holding all these freaking ropes and strings and things. How could you possibly like open up your chest and like shine your magical Care Bear beam? You can't when you're holding all that stuff. So, no better way really to let go of all the tethers than to like wave your arms in the air like you just don't care and dance around a little bit. It moves them out of the way, at least for a moment, right? The more time we can spend in that joy, the more you start to shine. Because your light, as Kristin said, like your light is the way. Your light is the way. Your joy is your light. So the more joy you're having, the more you begin to shine. And the more you begin to shine, the more others can see your shine. And then they start to shine too, because we are mirrors. We are mirrors. If somebody is seeing your beautiful shine, if they're seeing it, it is a mirror of their own higher self. It's a mirror of their highest and best. So when you light up, I think this is something that's been so helpful for me. When I light up, what you're seeing in me is what your highest self, it exists in her too. And she may or may not be shining it as bright. And so seeing it in somebody else is an opportunity for you to shine, like you shine so bright. And then they see it and they're like, oh, I see that shiny piece in myself too. Oh, it gives me permission to shine. And then they shine and somebody else and somebody else and somebody else. And then all of our sparkle is starting to light up the world. And we need it. We need it. I can't emphasize this enough, how we've got to put down these tethers. Like these cultural tethers are not serving us. They're not serving us and we know it. So why the F are we holding them? Put it down, y'all. Put it down and shine. That's it. That's your instructions. Easy as pie. No, I realize it's not always easy. I realize it's not, but we can do it. You can do it. You truly can. And we're doing it together. And I thank you so much for being on this journey with me. It's so beautiful, the conversations that we get to have as a result of some of the conversations from people who are coming on the podcast. And I love hearing from them like, okay, you've accomplished so much, but what are your tethers? Like what's holding you back? Because they don't go away. That's what I'm learning from people. It doesn't go away. And still we get to shine. Like we get to move forward, even though those things want to hold us back, right? And it's just so much fun. So thank you for being here along the journey. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, leave a review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't yet. That really helps this podcast to grow. And it would just mean so much to me from the bottom of my heart. And if there is a magical light beam in your life that you think could benefit from hearing this podcast, share it with a friend. You just keep shining your magical unicorn light out there for all to see. I'll see you next time.